So this is little Niffler. Now, as I said, he's very old, so he's missing a few toes. And when I made him for the Christmas tree, we used proper Christmas tree ornaments to go in there, as if our Niffler was stealing from the tree. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to also use a bead maker. This is a one by Cell Cakes, but obviously you can use the brands that you've got. And I thought we'd make edible beads to go in him. So I've got a whole heap of stuff to show you. Right then, so it is boiling here. I don't know what it's like with you, but we don't have this weather in Wales. Wales is significantly wetter and colder. There we go. So excuse the rustling. I have got some Rice Krispie treats. Now with Rice Krispie treats, I don't know if you've ever made them before. So when I use Rice Krispie treats, I literally put a whole bag of marshmallows, which is 400 grams, and I put them into a bowl and I microwave it. And I microwave it until it rises right to the top of the bowl and it's lovely and fluffy and soft. And then I put in 2 batches. I put 385 grams of Rice Krispies, whatever brand. I actually prefer the supermarket's own brands because they crush better, so you can get a better shape when you're doing it. And then I put them in a sandwich bag. Now I use the IKEA ones, but I obviously didn't need it that big, so I've just brought a smaller one. But the idea is you don't crush them until you're going to use them. Right, so this stuff is uber sticky when you make it. So once you've made it, you've got to resist the urge to try and do anything. So when you see on all these TV shows where it's all collapsing, that's because they're trying to use it when it's still hot. Ideally, you need to be able to put your hand on it and only get a slight amount of tackiness. I always get little bits because I'm really, really warm. I've always got hot hands. Now, Niffler isn't actually that big, is he? So I started to scrunch up a piece ready, and then I thought, do you know what? We'll just do the whole thing. Let's do the whole thing. So what you're going to do, you're going to be getting a piece roughly the size you want, and the idea is to squish it. There we go. So you want an egg shape without the point. Is that a good description? Now what I think I'm going to do, I will add a little bit for his head, but I don't want to add his whole head because I want the freedom to be able to add it myself. But look at that. Isn't it just the best stuff in the world? Now when I teach classes, I usually teach in cake because the customers want to eat the cake. But every now and again, we get people saying, please, can we do this in Rice Krispies? Because we don't want to eat it. We want to keep it forever. So we offer that option as well. There we go. So can you see, I'm just squishing it, but look what happens when you press and it goes really, really flat. There we go. Right, there we go. We're not going to worry about making him exactly the same, but we want to get a rough same size. So look how sticky my hands are now, so you can see why I'm going to have to clean them. Now, Rice Krispie treats, I tend to make them for when I need them, but you can still make up a big batch, and I know an awful lot of people who buy them ready-made. Well, I know they do that a lot cheaper in America than they do it in the UK, but in the UK, when you buy a ready-made, the price is extortionate. Okay, so as you can see, this is still nice and sticky. Now, the good thing about the stickiness means we don't need to actually wet it to cover it. I'm going to have to wipe my board slightly because water can damage Rice Krispies. I don't know if you know that. Because it's actually a cereal, the cereal will break down with the water. So you don't want to spray water onto your cereal treats. You want to wet ice in and then put the icing on. So that's a lot better. Right, so this is my pasta model, my Saracino. I've got both black and I've got skin tone. Now you can obviously use whatever you like, but I would recommend some form of modelling chocolate or even a modelling chocolate and sugar paste mix for this because it gives you longer to play with it, doesn't it? Right, so black. This is a great black. Lots of blacks are really hard to use. Satin Ice Black is great to use as well. So Squire's Kitchen, I use their modelling chocolate mixed with sugar paste and a bit of flour paste in there, roughly thirds. That makes a great modelling paste. What else is great? In the UK, we've got Renshaws. Now, some people say they're not keen on Renshaws, but I love Renshaws. You just need to learn how to use whatever the paste is. Have you discovered that? You know, there's no bad pastes. They all just need to learn how to be used. But for me, a good simple Renshaws is amazing for blending because it blends so beautifully. And all we need to do is to scruffily cover the body, okay? I've got a little weighing scale so I can give you quantities in a second. Should I give you the quantities of the rice cereal treats while we start? Right, so there is 34 grams of rice cereal treats. There you go. Nice and dinky. And the board I'm working on is got the bold squares are 5 centimetres. So that can give you an idea. Each little square is a centimetre. Decent amount of paste. Now, the reason I wanted to show it, a lot of people panic about black on their hands. When you're using pre-coloured paste, you don't have to worry because the colour will all come off. But what I like about the Saracino, you can blend it really well. But if you stretch it and you haven't blended it enough, can you see you get a lovely greying bit? And sometimes I aim for the greying bit. It's like when I use Renshaw's brown chocolate flavoured sugar paste, I use it for handbags. And if you use it for handbags and you stretch it, it does the same thing. You get different shades of brown. So it actually looks really like leather. So if I want to do black leather, I use Saracino's black pasta model mixed in with their black pasta top. And it gives me a really good, excuse me, a good leather effect. Excuse me. Right, okay, so let's roll this paste out. So if those of you who haven't worked with Saracino before, feel free to ask questions because like I said, I love the stuff. And this is the pasta model or the modelling paste. Now, normally you'd say roll out your paste nice and thin. Now, because my rice cereal treats are still soggy, I can place it over the top and I can just start blending it down. And I'm going to purposely put pleats because I want to show you that you can get rid of pleats, okay? So I'm just pulling it around to the back. I'm not going to have it thick underneath, although I would say if you need to patch it, so if you need to you know, join it back together, you can just use a knife blade. I've actually got the Cherot ones there. They're still in the case. Brilliant blending tool. There we go. And can you see it's gone? Those splits will be completely gone. So I'm having it quite thin underneath and I've got the bulk of all this paste on the top. Now I'm not going to add too many bits into this niffler. So I'm going to lift the head up a little bit. And what I can then do, I can have a flat head in the front because the niffler's face can then be added onto the front. Okay, I'm going to move him out of the way. No pressure then. Okay, so yeah, ask any questions you've got. Always up for questions. And I'm just pulling up his bottom a bit because, you know, he curves ever so slightly, doesn't he? And because I've got enough paste there, I'm going to pull his tail. That's going to be his tail. His face will be here. And then we need to grab some of this paste to move the arm. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to think there's shoulders in there and shoulders across to there. But we don't need to do too much because it's all going to be textured. See? So I'm going to do that again on the other side. So I'm just using the side of the Dresden. So this is the Dresden and this is the veining tool. So it's actually two tools on one. And this is the PME brand, but you use what you've got. I tend to stick to PME because everyone knows the PME, don't they? They're widely used. And you also know it's food safe, so that's a good thing as well, isn't it? Buy from proper cake brands, you know? Support those cake suppliers when they've designed lovely products. There we go. So can you see we've got a front shoulder and the hind leg. So I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to do the same there because we can add a bit of paste on in a second. So I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm just going to come up there and up there. Give him a lovely fat belly. You know, there's a lot of things that he's stolen in that belly. Pulling it all up, tucking it all in. So this tail, I will want the tail to separate down a bit. Now I'm going to be putting a pouch on this belly, so I'm not going to worry if I make it thinner anywhere. But this tail needs to stick up nicely. Can you see that? So his sort of back of his leg sticking up as well. Okay, so I'm just giving it a good old pull, and in a second we're going to start getting some texture on there. So you can see roughly, I'm going to pull it up. There we are, let's look at that one. Can you see? So we've got, that's the back leg, that's the front, and then that will be the tail. And the tail on the Niffler is really wide. See? Really wide. And then what we're going to have his little pouch for him to steal all his jewels in. So I'm going to push that flat. And this is going to be his head. But his head kind of comes out of his body. It's really lovely. So we don't want to have a separated neck or anything. Right. And you could also choose to add the legs and front and back separately, but I thought, you know what, we actually don't need to necessarily do it until it's needed. There we go. So now I'm going to grab an extra lump. I'm not going to texture that bit quite yet. So as you can see how easy it is to blend in, and you do have to blend it in nicely. Like any pastes, it'll get to chewing gum consistency. They all get paler, but then they darken back up as they dry off. And you can use corn flour, and the corn flour brushes off. You can also use coconut oil as well. You know, the one that comes in the tubs that's really solid? I tend to use that as well. So if I want these arms themselves to be a little bit raised, because as you can see there, this Niffler, the back legs are really built in. So all I've done is got a line there and a line there. These front paws, I kind of want to lift up a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do next. So let's make sure that tail is the angle I want it. And I'm just pushing this tool in, and what that does is it lifts up these back leg sections. I might put a little bit of extra paste on that one, but that one is perfect. So what I'm going to do with that one is use any sort of comb tool and make a hollow, and then close up the hollow slightly around the tool, because you're going to pretend that that's closed around his paw. I need a little bit more paste on that one. So the beauty is you can add it on. I'm going to show you how to blend it, just to show you how easy. And no, I'm not getting any money or anything. I just like to show you how to use the different products. Now, Satin Ice blends just as beautifully, and so does, what's it called, Renshaw. That blends really nice and easy as well. And whenever I'm doing stuff, I do a lot of animals and things, so I like them to blend really well. So whatever paste you're doing, you need to be able to get it to blend. Some people just need to knead it more. They don't quite knead their paste enough, you know? Right, so I have just added a very small piece of paste onto there, not much at all. And I'm going to cut it shorter when it's the length I need. So all I'm doing is dragging down the broad end, which is the Dresden tool, to join it up. There we go. I'm going to leave it long for now. There we go. Can you see? That's just bringing that in. That's his lovely chubby belly. That's the extra piece that we just added. And that is where we put the comb tool in to get that hollow. So let's add another piece on the other side. There we go. Don't need much. So I'm adding about, okay, so we do it when, you know, when everyone says they've got a different way of saying how big the ball is. Chef Nicholas Lodge does it the most beautiful way, and he's got proper tools. We do petit pois, garden pea, marrowfat pea, Revel, Maltesers and walnuts. There you go. Okay, so I've added that bit on, blend it down. Right, stretch up these paws, because what happens is when it gets towards the foot or towards the hand, I'm going to call them just so we know what we're talking about, it gets thinner. So if you pull it, can you see it's automatically gone thinner? So now all you need to do is to shorten it to the length you want. And the easiest way to do that is always with a scissors. So these are just little smooth bladed scissors. Of course, you can buy a brand new scissors as long as you haven't used it for anything else. Give it a sterilize and then that's fine. These are actually cake ones by Culpit, just so you know. There we go. So I've given you a couple of angles today because I appreciate how difficult black can be to see. So I wanted to make sure that you could see. So there we are. You can see Naughty Niffler now with his tail, which I gave a curve when I did it. And we'll be putting the fat belly in a bit. But now we've got all of this texture started, this shape started, we need to add texture. So I'm just going to make sure these are nice and deep lines. And nice and deep come into there. And that way then I can have a nice little chest area. But I remember when I made this Niffler, I thought his chest area was too thin. So I'm rectifying that this time. But what it is, I just want to thicken this little bit out because I've just decided I want a slightly different angle. The only downside with black is it does pick up everything and show every fibre. There we go, that's the angle we want. Perfect. There, tucking down under the chin. Just ready. Oh, look at that. Lovely fat belly appeared there now. Just what we wanted. Okay, so let's get some texture in. So who's made Christmas trees? Because there's nothing more exciting than doing Christmas trees. And as you can see, I'm going to pull the old Niffler in. He's very dusty. He was with Artista Soft Clay. He's just snipped. Look. So what I always recommend is follow the fur direction. So if you've got a dog, if you've got a cat, just copy them. That's all you need. And the way I always say it is that it comes away from the head. Now we're going to have to put this on something so I can pick it up nice and easy and slide it around. So my Saracino lids always end up as paint palettes and anything to just pick up my paste. But let me just start at the very base. So the best way to do it is you start where you'd like it to be the neatest and you work your way down. And I'm given a really decent amount of depth. And the trick with this one in, let me come in nice and close by here. Hang on, there you go. So the trick with it is you place your blade flat, then you snip. You don't poke it in like beak. You lay it in between the gaps and you snip. You don't have to have a curved scissors, which is what we used to do back in the day. It's all about the angles. There we go. So, can you see that spikiness appearing? Okay, and push the spikes down once you've done them, because you don't want a hedgehog, you just want a Niffler. Okay, so I'm going to pop it there and I'm just going to start snipping. I shall leave other Niffler there to keep you occupied. You know, this is what we call the talk amongst yourselves job. Right, so I want these to be coming down towards the belly. I'm still going to do the area where the pouch is going to be. Stay. Even though I'll end up putting a pouch on the top. And if you've got a thin piece of paste and a solid cake underneath that you're scared of coming through, just lie your scissor blades flatter. Okay. Right, so now I need to tuck around to this side of the belly. There we go, just lots of little steps. And then when you're doing the paws, the fur will come up towards the paw. So we're going to start down there and move our way up. There we go. See that texture come in? Let me just pull it in slightly for you. There we go. So I'm just going to snip away now because I think you know how to do your texture. All the way along. right up to the tail, and it's going towards the tail, the same as I did with the legs, towards that paw. And I'm lying it down. I'm not too worried if they're too perfect, because you get the idea. And when you do this, you can do it all perfectly neatly, can't you? Tuck your scissors underneath with a different angle to get your hand in as well. A lot of people say, I can't get my hand that way. Hold the scissors different. And have you seen those little scissors where you pull them and then release them to cut? They're great for doing this as well. I'm just so used to the blade size on this one. I've always had a pair of this type of scissors. There we go. And if you're looking on the Culprit range, it's the one that's about £5 or £6. I'll tell you the length actually, hang on. The whole scissors is 9 centimetres long, just so you know. Because a lot of people say, I want an exact same scissors. And it's so hard, isn't it, when we're all in different countries. But as long as you go for smooth bladed, can you see? It's very, very smooth bladed. Right, so I'm just popping the lines back in now, because you don't want to lose those lines. Can you see? You want to look like that leg is coming up and doing what that leg does, and this paw is doing what that paw does, and so on. You can pop some lines back in, but trust me, you need that definition, otherwise it just looks too random. So pull those paws back up, because they'll be a little bit flat. And then what we need to do then, we need to give him his updo. There we go. Right, so let me show you this stage, and then I'm just going to wipe my hands with some baby wipes. So I'm going to put the cone tools in so you can see there is a paw there and a paw there. Paw at the front and a paw at the front, and this is his lovely tail, and this is his head. Now you can see I've left the face smooth, except for a couple of snips. Let's put a couple more just in case. There you go. And then he's got his lovely furry head. So let me turn it at different angles so you can see texture. There we go. So the different lights in the room will catch the texture for you. And the beautiful thing is with the right black, satinized black or Saracino black, and even the Renshaw black, they've got a nice shine. You need that shine, because if you haven't got a shine, it's not going to do its job, is it? Now, make sure you keep aside another bit of black ready to do the pouch, but we're not putting the pouch on yet. So what I'm going to do is weigh him completely. He is 105, and what was the Rice Krispie treat? It was about 34, something like that. So you've got about 65 grams of Saracino there in black, okay? Right, so baby wipes, and as promised, can you see, let's change to the other angle, can you see all the black comes off? So with any pre-coloured pastes, that is the benefit of them, is usually when you use them, the colour comes off your hands. If you're doing, if you're colouring your own paste, that's when we kind of come unstuck, isn't it, really? Right, so the reason I've washed my hands is because I'm now going to get this skin tone out, and let's get this niffler done. So, skin tone colour. How do you term what skin tone is? Well, it's obviously just a European sort of palish skin tone, but this is what Saracino looks like out of the tub. Very hard, and that's exactly what it should be, okay? Then you can knead it up beautifully. And we're not going to do huge pieces for his feet, because you can see his feet aren't actually that big. Can you see how broken these are? Bless him. He's been on the Christmas tree for 6 years. Okay, let's do some lovely gnarly feet, shall we? Now, when I need to do feet, what I tend to do, feet and hands, I roll out the paste roughly and cut off a strip the size that I want that paw to be. So for example, if I hold it against there, the maximum that paw is going to need to be is about 1 centimetre. See, this is an easy way to work it out. So if you've drawn yourself a template, or if you've traced around a colouring book or something, which is what I always used to advise people in classes, then you know you're going to need slightly less than the size for the hands and for the feet, because they're going to get smaller. So what I'm going to do, I am going to do all 4 at once. And that is the absolutely incredible thing about modelling with modelling chocolates, with Saracino, which is like a sugar paste with cocoa added in. It's also got some CMC in. So it just means you can work on multiple pieces at once. So the reason I'm going into these sort of shapes is the bottom 2 legs, let's use these 2 because they're quite big. They will be paddle kind of shapes, and the top 2 are going to taper back down to hands. So we're going to do what we call the milk cola bottles, which is a sweet that you get in the UK. There we are. Slightly flat, because if they're flat, they're not going to be too big. Okay, now the reason the back feet are a paddle is because they're going to have a broader sort of spread to them. So I'm just grabbing a scalpel. I need to cut about 4/5 of the way down. I'm going to do the back feet first, and then I'm going to remove a wedge. So if you look down at my boards, don't forget every little square is 1 centimetre, so you can have a little look at your sizes. When I've now got that, I've roughly got the shapes that I need. So that is obviously the thumb type area, because even on the back paws, it's got like a thumb. And if it's too long, don't cut it straight off, cut it at an angle, because he's got really pointy nails on this Niffler. So by cutting at an angle, it keeps them sharp. Now I want to think about these. Now I'm not going to worry too much about the perfect hand shape for this one, because it's not really a hand, is it? But the way to get them all nice and pointy is to remove a central wedge roughly halfway down the hand. And can you see I pull it away using the scalpel? Let's do this one again. There's actually a mole in my book, Cyril's Cake Adventure, and it's pretty similar way of doing the paws. There we go. So pop that in. There we go. Can you see that? Give them a twiddle. Everyone says, but if I twiddle, they fall off. Only if you're using sugar paste. If you're using a chocolate modelling paste or a Saracino type modelling paste, they don't fall off. See? Lovely. Look at that. Let's get them spiky to start. You can see why they look a bit like a mole, can't you? There we go. Right, now the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use, now you could use your Dresden. You can use fancy tools, because there's lots of fancy tools out there. So these are a couple of chair art tools. This is called a soft taper tool. It's a number 2 size. This is a hard taper. The numbers are on them, K2220. And this one I've used such a lot, there's no number on it anymore. But they're on my website. There we are. Stroke down. Get those lovely gnarly bits going down the hands. Can you see? Those lovely gnarly lines. Now we also want to have some finger curves into there. Well, your Dresden does really good fingernails, you know. All you have to do is turn it around and hook those little nails, but make them a little bit long, because this is a Niffler. It's not exactly human. I'm going to go back in then on the other direction. So once I've done these 2, I'll be a bit faster when I do the hands, because you don't need to see them quite so much, do you? So go back in this way and hook, and that gives you the webbing between the fingers, and you've got lovely curly niffly fingers, see? So what we're going to do now is give them a little bit of a bend. Look at that. Can you, oops, hang on, wrong angle. There you go. Can you see that little bit of a bend going in? And you also want this is like a toe to be hooked slightly and off to the side. And then this foot is actually going to tip up on itself, and the excess at the side is going to end up as the attachment. Now, because it's warm, I'm actually going to cheat and put this straight in. I don't normally put them straight in. Just tucking in between the webbing. Did you know there's always a heart at the bottom of your paw? See, little heart shape there. There's a little line there. Do exactly the same. Think of all of the tendons and things in the hand. We might let it go cold. Should we let that go cold? Yeah, there we go. And then when it goes slightly colder, you can give them more of a curve. But what you can do in the meantime is let it rest over something, and that does it good. But can you see this is a lot drier? There we are. So much easier if you let them go cold. So this is why I tend to do a few at a time, because the one that I'm working on is cooler, and when it gets hot I change to the other one. There we go, tucking in the little lines at the end of the fingers. You can also put some creases in, so that way then the fingers bend at the junction. Look, see? Tuck the little finger hand down and put the little heart at the base of the hand. Just like that. Just keep him simple. Tuck that in. Cut him over there. Sorry, that means curl it over there. And I'm just going to put those lines on the underneath, so just on the off chance that somebody can see underneath this niffler's feet. Okay. Right. Okay, and I'm just going to whiz and do these now, because these are exactly the same. The only difference is they'll be slightly pointier. So 4/5 of the way down on both. Cut a steep angle away, and if you pull it out with your blade, it's a lot easier. Always twiddle the thumbs before you do anything else. Blunten back the hand up, and by twiddling the thumbs you can decide if you need to take any off the length now. Because I don't know about you, there are some perfect decorators out there, but I'm not one of them. I'm a fiddly decorator, so not trained in art, therefore I do it by eye. There we go. So cut out your Spock hands like that. Cut out your Spock hands. That gives you an equal division for the fingers, because if you look at your hand, the two fingers together are roughly the same size as the thumb. So that gives you pretty equal proportioned. And when you're doing the niffler, leave them really pointy. You can see my paste starting to stretch now. Really sticky. But I'm going to pick up one of the other ones in a minute, and you're going to see just how well it's setting. Right, so these hands, I want these really liney. Now, if I want them really liney, I get in there with my Dresden, because the Dresden lines are gonna stay, whereas a soft silicone modeling tool, they will disappear. Right, putting your nails in. So you think of that nail bed in there, that wide Dresden is absolutely perfect. And if you want to take it to another level, then you'll get a chair art hard point tool. You'll go down the side, and don't forget you have to cut at the top with the nail. The nail doesn't go underneath the finger or underneath the thumb. So a lot of people, when they put the line in, they put it underneath. You must look at your own nails to see where they end, okay? And make sure they're spiky, because Niffler's nails are spiky. There we go. So they're finished. We're going to let these dry as well. And he's doing pretty much the same with the front paws as the back. But I wanted to show you this little trick. If you grab a curved hard point tool and push up from underneath, can you see you get the heel of the hand and the base of the thumb and the fleshy part of the thumb as well. So that makes it far more natural. And don't forget to put that little heart shape in the end. Can you see that little heart shape on your hand? So you can pop in all the lines on the underside of the fingers. You will have to put your lines underneath where I'm holding it up to camera so much. The lines are going to disappear. But it means I can now articulate those fingers because I've put the joints in. So I need this to cool down again. So normally I wouldn't hold it up for quite as long. So we'll let that cool down. Wrap this thumb around, cut it up. You can tack underneath as well, that direction, under there, pull the webbing down on the fingers, end the base of the fingers and add in the joints. There we are, individually articulating. So if you want to do the Fonz's hey, like that, that's the best way to do it. Okay, so I want to show you how dry that paw is. Can you see how dry that paw is already? But we're still not going to use it. I'm going to leave them there. I'm going to do the face next. Ready? Because this little face isn't going to make itself. So we're just going to get cracking now. So there's a nice easy way to get this face. Now I'm going to keep him on this view because you can see him from above. And hopefully you can see him okay. I know you can't see much of the black detail, but we don't really need the black detail so much at the moment. The whole thing weighs about 105 grams and 34 grams of that was Rice Krispies. The rest is black sugar paste. And I'll show you the other angles in a second when we get to the detail. So let's pop 2 little balls of paste where the eyes are going to go. This is the easiest way to get the Niffler face. I spent ages doing that other Niffler. While they were all decorating the Christmas tree, we were like, what are we going to put on the Christmas tree? So I had some Artista soft paste, and that's where this Niffler came from. So I think I had about an hour and a half to make him. And the film, was the film even out? Yeah. Just out. Oh, there we go. That gives you a timing then as well. So, and I worked out afterwards, oh, you made that hard for yourself. Why didn't you just drag some paste down? So if you drag some paste down, look at that, you've got eye sockets already. And if you know that's where they're going to sit, then what you do is you get back in there and you snip the fur around it, just so that that fur has got some smaller pieces around by the eyes. We're going to dust in some dirty bits on those eyes as well. Then you want a beak, because they've got this really weird beak thing, haven't they? So you think Donald Duck, even think Mickey Mouse. I know that I don't make copyright characters for sale, but of course, if I'm doing a free cake for a family member, or if I'm doing a competition cake, it's the one time you get the opportunity, isn't it? So that's when all of my copyright characters wish list comes out. So I'm going to grab myself some paste. Let me just weigh this for you. That is, there we are, 2.7 grams, okay? And what I'm going to do, and get black on me already, I want to pinch this to a triangle shape. Can you see that shape into my fingers? So this top bit will end up coming up against his eyes. The back bit will end up coming against his cheeks. Now you can see why I said it's like Mickey Mouse, can't you? Or Donald Duck, is all a very similar character. And this bit will then get pushed and pulled and stretched out as that beak. I think he's a bit like a platypus, isn't he? There we go. You can see how easy that shape was to get. It looks a bit like a shoe as well, doesn't it, from the side? So the best way to get the size of it is just to pop him on. And the other thing is, when you're using Saracino, when you're using modelling chocolate, you don't usually need any glue either, do you? So that's a real bonus for... I call myself a lazy cake decorator because I expect everything to be done in 30 seconds. So not having to reach for glue really saves me some time. There we go. So can you see that's already the start of his beak? I'm just going to hold him the angle that I can see him. There we are. Can you see? So now I can hold him up to you. You can see the sort of raise of the beak at the top. The beak on the side is a little bit too long. So what I do is I get it to the shape I want it, or to the length I want it, should say. And then I'm snipping with my scissors. There we go. So scissors length, I think we're talking about there, because I want to make it slightly thinner again. Because you can see on his, can you see how long that beak is? I had one picture, I think, to work from. Well, the easiest way to pull it is when it's in position, because that way it'll stretch beautifully. Can you see it stretching? And also it's started to cool, so you need it to cool a little bit better. If you're trying to do it when you've only just put that beak on there, it'll be too hot to do anything with. Now you have to resist the urge to do anything to it for a minute. You've got to let it cool down. So to help it sit in the right place, use the cupped shape of your wide Dresden, tuck that from underneath, and it kind of supports it when you're giving it a pull and a shift around. And you can stroke up if you feel that it's not blending, but I think it's blended quite nicely. So while that's cooling down, I'm just going to get a small ball tool. This is about 2 millimeters in size. Pop that in there. And then I've got some dragees, you might call them dragees. Now, oops, there's always a dragee that runs away, isn't it? These are 3 millimeter dragees. And what they say is when you buy them, the odd 4 millimeter one can slip in. And these are the ones by Dragee Kiss, I think. Oh, actually, no, Gwen from Dragee Kiss gave them to me, so I'll have to ask her where she got them. But you just want to get two roughly the same size. But look, you get instant eyes, don't you? Look at that. Now, can you see this is already starting to cool down because I kept my hands off it? The best thing to do is to keep your hands off. You can't get any better than keeping your hands off. And I'm just going to put a slit. So 2/3 is the top half, 1/3 is the bottom. Okay, so top lip is 2/3, bottom lip is 1/3. But I'm going to switch from the scalpel now to my veining tool, which is the thin end of your Dresden. When I used to teach certified classes, that was actually one of the parts of the exam, was do you know your names of the tools? What are their uses? And I always objected to the what are the uses, because the use is for whatever job it's doing in your hand. Okay, tuck a cute little dimple on the side, because every niffler needs to smile a bit, and then pull that mouth back down. There we go. So we've got a really nice niffly shape. There we go. Right, so nostrils. Now they are the thing that are gonna get this niffler looking a bit better. So you tuck it in with whatever tool is in your hands, which in this point seems to be a veining tool. So it's the double-ended. You see why people use it all the time, can't you? And his bottom lip comes up a bit, look, almost like he's stroppy. Because he is stroppy, because Newt Scamanga's not letting him take all of the jewels out of the bank. There we go. Right, there we are. Can you see? Niffly. Hello. Say hello, niffler. Okay, so let's see how these hands are doing. Oh, they're great. Look at that. So much drier. Now, these were the back feet. Now, I've got a fairly decent hole in there. I know that's holding it, so I'm going to cheat and use this a second. And the reason for the fairly decent hole is the fairly wide section there that means that can just sit in perfectly. Look at that. Curling feet. You've got to imagine this niffler flying out of the jewellery shop. Do you remember? Flying backwards. And then Newton is looking the other direction and following him away. Pinch a little bit off the end. Because the reason I retwiddle this paste is because when you retwiddle it, it gets soft. So once you've retwiddled, it sticks. Oh my word, I want to cuddle it now. And I'm the one who's made it. It's not supposed to be like that. Right, okay. Back paws are on. front paws are on, which does mean, folks, all we got to do is a dot of colour and we're nearly done. There we go. Right, let's get these colours on. He's going, look, see? I'm also going to use the same Saracino to just knock out a couple of pearls as well. Right, so this is by Cell Cakes. There are lots of bead makers on the market. Dust it always. Now you can also dust some gold into it, which is what I'm also going to do, but it's really warm. So I think the safest bit for me tonight is to actually just paint the dust on. So you want to get your Saracino rolled, dust it, and you need to get this hand action where you're, excuse me, you're opening it up, popping in your beads, pressing down and squeezing gently. You don't need to squeeze hard. Then when you cut the excess off, yay, look at that. Perfect. Right, okay. So I'm just going to cut the thread off the back. Now, sometimes I use that. If you're using these bead makers to stick beads around the base of a cake, trust me, that bit on the back is amazing. So just going to add a bit of colour onto this. So I'm going to get a second lid because, as I mentioned, they're really brilliant for dusting on, and I know that this one lid is going to get very painty. Okay, so this is a brand new one. So it's probably got a, yes it has. I bought this the other day. Our lovely local shop has reopened again for the first time since lockdown, and that is the Vanilla Valley, and I'm very lucky to have them as my local shop because they're huge. Right, so can you see I've got a Rejuvenator Spirit, so you can just use a high grade alcohol. This one is, what is it, 97% ethanol? Yeah, you just want a fast drying alcohol basically. And then what I'm going to do is use a vaguely scruffy brush. And this is Fractal Colours Golden Shine. Now you can also mix it directly in with the glaze, because then it's shiny already. But to save time today, I've got a Cake Art spray glaze, which I know dries super fast. So I'm going to leave that bit there. So turn it back onto the front. There we are. See, I thought that was good Niffler shiny colour. And then I'm going to grab my Cake Star Spray Shine, which is that one. Doesn't matter what brand you use. I use a PME one, but it's not shiny. It dries to a matte, which is perfect for leaves. But the Dinky Doodle Shell and Shine, or this one, are great for super shiny, which is what we need. Now, because I've only just painted it, can you see some of the colour will come off? Pop that colour back on while the glaze is still wet, and then I'll go back and give that another spray in a minute. So we're just going to put the final colour on. Now I've got only 2 colours are really needed, which is the Fractal Colours Kitty Nose Pink and the Fractal Colours Black. But what I've also brought is some Azure Blue, just in case I want the pink to look a bit grubbier pink. I think we're going to be all right with it as it is, because it's usually the pink I use. And what you want to do is you want to put the colour on there and wipe as much of it off as you can. And the reason being, you don't want too much colour on there. If you have too much colour on there, it sticks too much. Now, we are too fresh, aren't we? Because we've only just made this. But I wanted this Niffler done completely from start to finish, so... So I'm just putting some little pink onto the end of his nose, up the joins, a little bit around the eyes. Right, there we go. Lots of pink on the hands, because obviously that's the veiny bits, isn't it? And although black is going on there, I want the pink on there as well. And when we've done the black as well, I put a bit of violet on the nails. There we go. I'm going to leave this pink brush. I'm not going to dirty it. I'm going to keep it. Now, as you can see, I didn't actually need the Azure Blue. It was just in case it looked too shiny and too pretty. Because this is the Niffler and he's supposed to be a bit messy. Black now. This is a great black. It's a true black. Not all blacks that you buy are true black, are they? Have you discovered this? I know that I have. Every time I'm looking for a black. So this is why I was pleased when I discovered the Fractal range. Saracino's black is a true black. And Squire's Kitchen, their QFC is a true black. Otherwise, a lot of people use licorice, they use blackberry. So you'll have blacks with a tinge of another colour. So you have to bear that in mind when you're choosing your blacks. And the Fractal Colours Airbrush Black is a true black as well. So quite often they're bluey or they're greeny, aren't they? So you just got to look for the colours that suit you, haven't you? So I'm going between the veins on the fingers, just on the back, and I'm also blending that join between paws and body. There we go. And then we want a bit around the eye, because it's not actually pink up there. He's black around the eye, which is why that looks like it sticks out like a sore thumb right now. There, see, look how much better that looks. And he's not clean. So wipe the excess off your brush and get some black onto that muzzle along the edges. You're not dirtying him up, you're just making him look more niffly. There we go. Doesn't he look better with the black on there? Looks far more niffler-like. There, see? Right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to put that belly pouch on, put that gold beading into place. Oh, hang on. Sorry, one super fast thing. He's actually got purple on his nails. So I'm just going to pop a tiny amount of lilac on there and a bit of the alcohol, because if you don't put it on there, he isn't Niffler. They've got like a veiny purplish tinge to the edge of his nails. So just catch every now and again with a lilac, with a grape violet, even with a pale purple, just nice and runny. And it just looks more like Niffler. I also stick a bit up his nose as well. Tends to look good. And can you see, if you're doing it when it's fresh, that's how you curl the nails without breaking them. There we go. So let's get your pouch on, Niffler, and then you can steal that gold. So just get a little pouch. Take a section of gold beads. We won't have much, just a little bit coming out of the pouch. So you can put it on. Can you see, because I haven't sprayed the other side, there's going to be a little bit of gold, but that's fine because it's going to be hidden under the pouch. Decide how much you need and give it a press. And then that black, oops, she says with gold on her fingers. Oh dear. Gold gets everywhere. There we go. So let's move his foot, that little pouch, blend it in, grab your Dresden, and then put a little couple of, what are they called? Fur marks? Should we call them fur marks? I don't think anybody will shout at us if we don't call them the right thing, will we? There we go. Let's pop those up his belly. So his little pouch is in place. Try not to cut his nose off when you do this, by the way. Speaking from experience here. Pull up the pouch and tuck him in. There we go. I'm just going to rub off that little bit of black that I got and a little bit of gold, because all you can do is dust over it and it's gone. It's really strong stuff. So there we go. Now, I do think this Niffler would benefit from a little bit of shine on those eyes. So I'm just going to add the tiniest drop of spray glaze. So I'm using it from my spray can back onto those dragees, because can you see those lovely eyes have now shone bright. Hang on, let's get the angle. There we go. Can you see shiny eyes? And he's going, no, like that, see? So there we go. There's our Niffler. Super fast. But I wanted to do the whole thing just to show you that it's feasible. There we are. The keeper's going, can you see, he can lift his hands up, goes, no. Sorry. There we go. Hold him up to that angle just to show you some various angles now. There we are. So that's from the top to the bottom. Let's show you a side. Let me support him. There's a side angle. Turn him around to the front. There we go. Can you see the lovely dirty patches on his face? Really bring out that detail, don't they? So don't forget the dirty details along that bit, but there I could do a bit more detail. Like, see? Can you see? Just catches it. Catch those lines. Get that detail to stand out.